Morning. Well, to those of you that it's morning, anyways. And it's President's Day, so we have a game on early today. So this preview is only going to be good for one game for about a couple hours. But it's also Family Day in Canada, so it's President's Day in the States and Family Day in Canada. So happy holiday to those who actually have the day off. I don't think it's a day that you just get off. It's not a statutory one. Anyways, that being said, I don't want to get too sidetracked here. Boston's in San Jose tonight. Now, Boston's looked pretty good lately. I'm not gonna lie, they've looked pretty good, and it's hard for me not to get overly excited. They're 34-17-8. They've looked pretty good. They're in against 35-17-7 San Jose. Now, this is a measuring stick for me. This is one of those games that will tell me, okay, so Boston is or isn't. I don't want to say contender, but closer to contender than not. Over their last five, the Bruins won at LA 4-2. They won at Anaheim 3-0. They won versus Chicago 6-3. They won versus Colorado 2-1, and they won versus LA 5-4. And this is the thing. That's 5 wins in a row. None of the teams they've beaten are in the playoffs. And that's where it gets tricky for me. So tonight's a big one. Now for San Jose, they're coming off of a win at home against Vancouver, which was 3-2. Of course, they lost before that against Washington 5-1. They won at Vancouver 7-2. They won at Edmonton 5-2. They won at Calgary 5-2. So out of their 5 games, the only games that were against playoff teams, there was the Calgary one at the start, the Washington one. So 3 of the 5 have been against non-playoff teams. So San Jose may very well measure themselves against the Bruins in this game to some extent too. Your points leader for Boston, Marchand, with 23 goals, 47 assists, 70 points. Plus minus leader for Boston is Bergeron with a plus 16. The guy at the bottom of the plus minus scale is Ryan Donato with a minus 11. Points per 60 minutes played. Bergeron 4.08. It's a pretty solid number for Patrice. Goaltenders, no confirmation yet. I expect Rask here. Rask is 19-8-4 with a 920 save percentage. Halak is 15-9-4 with a 923 save percentage. On the San Jose side of things, their points leader is Brent Burns, 11 goals, 53 assists, 64 points. Their plus minus leader is Dylan at plus 20, and the one at the bottom is actually Vlasic at minus 11. For a guy who's considered to be great defensively, the number doesn't go in his favor. Points per 60 minutes played, Timo Meier leads there with a 3.22. Goaltenders, I expect Jones. He's 28-11-4 with an 899 save percentage. Yeah, he's got to get to 900 and get over it and stay over it. Anyways, Dell is 7-6-3 with an 892 save percentage, and this is the first meeting between these two teams this year. Boston comes in hot. San Jose still relatively hot. That 5-1 loss against Washington was certainly some cold water on their expectations, but for the most part, San Jose still looks pretty darn good. And I do still see San Jose as probably the best team in the West right now. And we're going to find out possibly today whether or not they can get there. Because while they're at home against Boston, the Flames are at home today as well. The Flames are at home against the Arizona Coyotes. The Coyotes are 26-27-5. And if Arizona got themselves a little bit of goal scoring at the deadline. The tricky part, of course, is the guys that they've gotten rid of, and whether it's Strome or it's Domi, have shown greater scoring acumen elsewhere. What that tells me is either Arizona's not deploying their forwards very well, or it comes down to something with coaching or the environment, something. Anyways, they're 26-27-5. They're in against the 35-16-7 Calgary Flames, whose demise has been greatly exaggerated by the media. I don't see them as being in any kind of trouble at all right now. Now, over their last 5, the Arizona Coyotes, of course, are coming off that 2-0 win at home against Toronto. They lost at home against St. Louis, which is no shame in that right now. A 4-0. They won at Vegas 5-2. They won versus Dallas 3-2, and they lost versus Columbus 4-2. So they have won 3 of their last 5. On the Calgary side of things, well, they've lost 4 of their last 5, but I've been through this. They beat Pittsburgh in their last game 5-4. That was at Pittsburgh. That was after they lost at Florida 3-2. They lost at Tampa 6-3. They lost at Vancouver 4-3. The losses to Florida and Vancouver, of course, were shootouts. And before that, they lost versus San Jose 5-2. It's the San Jose loss that hurt. because right now they're tied in points. Now, points leaders for the Arizona Coyotes, Keller, 11 goals, 27 assists there. Plus minus leader is Mario Kempe with a +6. Hjalmarsson also has a +6. At the bottom of the scale is Ekman Larsson with a -16. Points per 60 minutes, your leader's Galchenyuk with 2.41. Goaltenders, Kemper's been listed as likely. He has a 14-14-5 record with a .913 save percentage. Pickard would be the backup at 4-4-2 and an .875 save percentage. On the Calgary side of things, Johnny Gaudreau, 29 goals, 49 assists, 78 points. His line slowed down. Admittedly, his line slowed down, but that's going to happen. You can't run a whole 82-game schedule and just, your line's not going to run over the league. You look in Colorado, their first line slowed down too. Plus minus leader is Giordano with a +28. At the bottom is James Neal, -10, and they're not saying much about what injury he has or when he's going to return. Points per 60 minutes played. Johnny Gaudreau leads there with a 3.97. Goaltenders, Smith's been confirmed, so Rittich could be the backup at 25-5, .911 save percentage. Smith, 15-11 and 891 save percentage. Honestly, I think giving Smith a bunch of starts makes a lot of sense. And against his former team, the Arizona Coyotes, it may very well help him to get out of whatever funk he was in at the start of the year. He was, he's been in quite the funk. And his save percentage being low is one thing, but he's had wins his last couple of times out. So we'll see how he does against an Arizona team that does struggle to score. And Calgary's 2-0 against the Arizona Coyotes this year. Next up, Tampa, 44-11-4, an insane record. Absolutely insane. They've won 4 times more games than they've lost this year, and they're in against the 33-21-3 Columbus Blue Jackets, who understand they're in a dogfight. They're in a dogfight with Pittsburgh, with Carolina, and if they fall down to a wildcard spot, Montreal. So they want to maintain their spot in third. And in order to do that, and having seen that Washington had a bit of a stumble, they can now step up and try to get that much closer and put that much more pressure on Washington. Hey, Columbus wants to get that number 2 spot, and it'll make it more and more difficult for Jarmo Kekalainen to make a move, because if the team's second in their division, you can't just ship out Panarin and Bobrovsky. I know there's all these rumors spinning around, but you can't. You can't have a team that looks like they might finally win a round and then sell off their best players. It just the optics are terrible. Anyways, over their last 5, Tampa, impressive. They've won all 5. Versus Montreal 3-0, versus Dallas 3-0, versus Calgary 6-3, at Florida 5-2, versus Pittsburgh 5-4. Thanks for coming out. Columbus, on the other hand, a bit more of an up and down battle for them, but they've still been pretty solid. They won against Chicago 5-2. Before that, they lost 3-0 against the Islanders, which followed a 3-0 win over Washington. And that was after their successful road trip. They won 4-3 at Vegas, 4-2 at Arizona, and I believe they beat Colorado before that. So for Columbus, things look pretty good. This is a fantastic night for them to go out and perhaps defeat Tampa, if that's a thing right now. It seems like Tampa's back to God mode. It's like when you're playing a video game against a guy and he's beating the hell out of you. And then just to make it interesting, he just spends the next little while just letting you kind of catch up. And then he just decides to beat the hell out of you again. It kind of feels like Tampa's done that with the NHL. Points leaders for Tampa. Of course, the top guy for Tampa is Kucherov with 27 goals, 67 assists, 94 points. That's a good total for a whole season. 59 games is pretty good. He's on pace for about 130 points. And I don't know if he gets there or not, but if he gets there, yeah, he'll likely win the Hart. I can't see him not winning it. McDonough, plus 26. He's their leader there. Stamkos is a 0 and is at the bottom of the board there. Points per 60 minutes played. Kucherov, of course, leads there. 4.89 points per 60 minutes played. That's an insane total. Bergeron's pretty good at a 4.08. Kucherov at 4.8, 4.89. And yeah, there isn't anybody on the board that's close to that number. That's fantastic. Goaltenders, no confirmation for Tampa. I would think Vasilevsky here. Demang's 18-4. 907 save percentage. Vasi's 25-7-4 with a 928 save percentage. On the Columbus side of things, of course, their points leader is Panarin until he gets traded. If he gets traded, Do you think he gets traded? 24 goals, 43 assists for him. Plus-minus leader is Ryan Murray at plus 20. Having an amazing season, really, considering he was left for dead last year. Your plus-minus at the bottom is Dubinsky at minus 11. Points per 60 minutes played. Panarin, who's having a great year, 3.62. Compare that to Kucherov's 4.89. It's just crazy. Goaltenders, Korpisalo's been confirmed here. I'm surprised by Korpisalo, but I guess they wanted to give Bob a night off. Bobrovsky's 24-17-1 with a 904 save percentage. And if you want to keep his value up, maybe you don't want Tampa shelling him, huh? Hey? There you go. Korpisalo's 9-4-2 with a 901 save percentage. So let that speculation be out there that, they're not playing Bobrovsky because they don't want him to get beat like 5-1 and lower his value. They're definitely trading Bobrovsky. I don't have any reason to believe that. I just think it's fun to say it. Tampa's won both meetings with Columbus this year. So it may just be that they're looking to give Tampa a different look. And maybe Bobrovsky's part of that look. All right, next up. Ottawa, 22-31-5. And playing spoiler relatively well while still being at the bottom of the league, which makes Colorado happy. They're in against the Chicago Blackhawks, who are 24-26-9, and Chicago's lost 2 of their last 3. This is a big game for Chicago. If they lose this game and they watch other teams rack up points and get further ahead, the math for them to make the playoffs gets really, really dodgy. Now, on the Ottawa side of things, over their last 5, they're not bad. They won at Winnipeg 4-3. They lost at Detroit 4-2. They lost versus Carolina 4-1. They won versus Winnipeg 5-2, and they won versus Anaheim 4-0. So they've won 3 of their last 5, or they've lost 2 of their last 3 that didn't involve Winnipeg. Depends on how you look at it. Chicago over their last 5, they lost versus Columbus 5-2. They won versus New Jersey 5-2. They lost at Boston 6-3. They won versus Detroit 5-2 and versus Vancouver 4-3. Chicago, I think where their issue is, I think the teams that are deeper, Boston and Columbus being 2 of them, I think that's where they've had problems. So we'll see if they take down Ottawa, a team not known for tremendous scoring depth. So everything should favor Chicago in this one. Points leader for Ottawa, Stone, as long as he's there. 27 goals, 32 assists for him. Plus-minus leader is DeMello at plus 16. At the bottom is Lajoie. It's not unusual for young defensemen to struggle defensively. Minus 21 for him. Points per 60 minutes played, Duchesne leads with a 3.55. Goaltenders, Nelson's listed as likely. He's 10-14-1 with a 913 save percentage. Anderson, 14-17-3 with a 904 save percentage. On the Chicago side of things, Kane, 35 goals, 52 assists, 87 points. 100-point season out of Patrick Kane. Nobody saw that coming this year. That's crazy. And he's pretty much a shoe-in for 100 points right now. They got 23 games left, and he's 13 points short. Plus-minus leaders, Connor Murphy at plus 9. Perlini's at the bottom of the plus-minus scale with a minus 20. Patrick Kane leads the points per 60 minutes brigade at 4.04. Dealey has been confirmed as the starter tonight. He's 6-3-3 with a 916 save percentage. Ward will be the backup at 12-9-4, 896 save percentage. Chicago did win the meeting in Ottawa this year. Now this is the second and final meeting. Again, for Chicago, it's pretty simple. They have to keep winning the way they've been winning. There's no room for turning around, because if they lose a couple here and there, all it takes is one of the other teams. I'm looking at you, Minnesota or Dallas. One of you guys start winning. Yeah. Anyways, it's going to be an interesting race in the West right down to the wire, and I think Chicago's going to stay in it. But at the same time, they have to keep their eye on Arizona here, because if Arizona's ahead of them, they're not making it either. So there's still the challenge of getting past Arizona. Vancouver's ahead of them, but Vancouver's played 60 games, which is ahead of everybody else. And it means that they've got more points, but they've played more games, so they have less control over their destiny from here. Next up, Vegas. 32-24-4 Vegas, who finally got off the snide at home. They may be happy to be on the road, to be completely honest. And they're in Colorado. They may be very happy to be in Colorado, because Colorado, not great for the last couple of months. And when it looked like they were getting it together, they were just beating Winnipeg, which is a common enough theme right now. among the bottom feeders in the NHL, and is one of those disturbing reasons why I'm concerned about the Winnipeg Jets. Not to be a jerk, just I'm concerned. On the Vegas side of things, over their last 5, of course, they had a 4-game homestand where they won 1 game. That was the most recent one over Nashville, 5-1, which was an encouraging game. It showed that they can get it back together. Before that, they lost versus Toronto 6-3. They lost versus Arizona 5-2. Lost versus Columbus 4-3. At Detroit, they won 4-3. So they're 2-3 in their last 5. Now they get to go into Colorado, where their last game was at home against St. Louis. They got shut out 3-0. At Winnipeg, they won 4-1. Versus Toronto, they lost 5-2. At Boston, they lost 2-1 in overtime. At the Islanders, they lost 4-3 in overtime. So they've only lost 2 in regulation. So they're 1, 2, and 2 over their last 5. I'm trying to find the silver lining for Colorado. I really am. But it does seem to get more and more difficult. If Colorado loses this one, honestly, if I'm Sakic, I'm looking to sell. I'm looking to see what kind of future assets I can get back, because I just don't know that they can get back into it. And I know they're not that far out, but the fact they're outside the playoffs with how well they were playing up until early December, it's sad. Scoring leader for the Vegas Golden Knights is Tuck. 16 goals, 26 assists for him, which is the second lowest leader on the board. It's actually lower now than the Kings have. It's higher than Keller for Arizona, but I've talked a lot about Arizona's goal scoring issues. Plus minus leader is Eakin at plus 13. Nosek is at the bottom of the chart with a minus 13. Points per 60 minutes played, it's Brandon Perry with 3.06. Play him in offensive situations. Give him power play time. He'll help you out. No, he's defensively not fantastic, but other than that, yeah, he's a specialty player, sort of like your power play specialist on the blue line. Think of Tom Curvers, but he's not a great example. Goaltenders, no confirmation. I expect Fleury, although Subban played pretty well his last game. He's 3-5 now with a 911 save percentage. Fleury's 29-18-4, and he has a 908 save percentage. So there you go. Malcolm Subban now has a save percentage higher than Fleury's, and it's higher than it was all last season. So he just didn't get the bounces this year he got last year. Last year, for Vegas reasons, he was 13-4-2. On the points side of things, the leader for Colorado is Rantanen at 24 goals, 52 assists. Plus minus leader is McKinnon at plus 13. 2 guys at the bottom of the plus minus board. Soderberg minus 12, Kerfoot minus 12. Points per 60 minutes played, Rantanen leads there at 3.74. Goaltenders, no confirmation. I expect Varlamov. He's 14-15-8 with a 906 save percentage. Grubauer's 9-7-3 with an 890 save percentage. And Vegas won the only meeting these two teams have had this year. It's on Vegas right now not to continue to fall back. Although they don't have any pressure from beneath either. That's kind of one of the things with Vegas. They just play 500 from here. They're still going to be third in the division. All right, last but not least, definitely not least, your defending Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals in against the LA Kings. And we've got some interesting stuff in this one because the Kings are coming off of a big loss last night. A shocking loss last night. I might go as far as to say, yeah, it was pretty shocking. And so tonight is a big night for Washington because there have been some nervous Cap fans that are like, okay, that's enough of this. We can't be mediocre. Why are we still mediocre? And then they give you a glimpse of how they can play, and you go, okay, all right, so they're getting better. And then that happens again last night, where Anaheim just looked like the better team. So they're in against LA. Now, the Capitals are 32-20-7. LA's 23-29-6. And LA's basically done. But the team hasn't stopped giving that effort. Now, over their last 5, the Capitals, they lost 5-2 last night at Anaheim. That was after they won at San Jose 5-1. Before that, they lost at Columbus 3-0. They won versus the Los Angeles Kings 6-4. And they lost versus Florida 5-4. So, yeah, they're 2-2-1 in their last 5. That's, again, when you've got the Metro playing as well as some of these teams are, Carolina, I'm looking at you, it does make you wonder, how long can the Caps play this way and stay afloat? The good news for them is that Pittsburgh hasn't looked fantastic either, but the Penguins are still highly likely to make the playoffs. On the LA side of things, over their last 5, they lost versus Boston 4-2. They lost versus Vancouver 4-3 in a shootout. They lost at Washington 6-4. They lost at Boston in a overtime 5-4, and they won at Philly 3-2. So for LA, they're doing their best to play spoiler, and they get a team that's on the second of 2 games in 2 nights. So Washington, be very careful. Points leader for the Capitals, of course, Ovechkin, 40 goals, 27 assists. There's nothing more to say really with Ovechkin other than, he is probably the greatest goal scorer ever. It's insane how easily he scores 40, and he looks like he's going to score 50, and we haven't really talked about it a whole lot because it's just kind of, Ovechkin got some goals. Yeah, Ovechkin leads the league in goals. Of course he does. At 33 in a league that keeps getting younger, I still say he's going to catch Gretzky. Anyways, your plus-minus leader, Kempny, is your leader at plus 20. At the bottom of the spectrum is Lars Eller at minus 13. Points per 60 minutes played, Ovechkin 3.32. Goaltenders, I expect Holtby in this one. Copley would be the backup at 12-5-3. 903. No, it'll be Copley because Holtby played last night. Copley's 12-5-3 with a 903 save percentage. Holtby 20-15-4 now with a 907 save percentage. Holtby's numbers have not been great this year. On the LA side of things, Kopitar leads them in points with 17 goals, 26 assists. A Kings team that really needs an infusion of youth. Plus-minus leader is actually Kyle Clifford at plus 6. Your plus-minus at the bottom, Doughty, minus 23. Doughty has not looked like a happy camper this year. He never really does, though. He always kind of looks like he's got kind of a grizzly bear look to him. If you look at him the wrong way, he might eat your face. Anyways, and I say that with full respect. Mr. Doughty, if you see this, I fully respect you. Please don't eat my face. Points per 60 minutes played, Wagner leads the team there at 2.15. Yeah, they really need some scoring in this lineup. Goaltenders, I expect Quick. They haven't confirmed anything yet. Campbell's 7-10-0 with a 928 save percentage. Quick 11-14-5 with an 898 save percentage. So we'll see what they do. Washington did win the one meeting right here, 6-4, and we'll see how they do. But there you go. 6 games tonight. Let me know what you guys think, your winners, that kind of thing. Relatively busy Monday. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just tap it upon this video, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.